What happens if the appraised value comes in too low for my home? Hey everyone, this is Cheryl Morrison, your local Chicagoland real estate attorney. And today let's talk about the hurdle of getting an appraisal done for the sale of your home. So if your buyer is getting a loan for the purchase of their home, one of the things that they will likely need is an appraisal. Now, an appraisal is an official report done by a third party to determine the value of your home. This is really important for banks because a bank wants to make sure that they are not lending more money to the buyer than the home is worth. Because if they were, let's give a really extreme example, that let's say a home is only worth $100,000 by the appraisal, but the buyer wants to purchase it for $200,000. What happens if that buyer stops paying their mortgage? The recourse for that lender is to come after the home and foreclose it and then sell that home to recoup the money they gave to the buyer. Well, if they lent $200,000, but the home is only worth $100,000, they're never going to be able to get all their money back. So it's really not a good deal for them. So the appraisal report is how the bank determines that the amount of money that they're lending to the buyer is appropriate. In most cases, people are required to get appraisals, although there is the possibility that somebody can get a waiver on an appraisal from the bank. And they do this for a number of different reasons. If the home is already in their database and they have a good idea of what the home is worth, if it's a newer home, if it's been recently appraised before, if the buyers have really great credit and are less of a risk, or if the buyers are only planning to borrow, like 70 or 80% of the actual purchase price of the home. So it used to be that waivers were less likely, but right now, I don't know if it's just because their databases have gotten better or if it's because of COVID. I think it's probably a little bit of both, because my guess is that even with the concerns of COVID-19 right now, the banks wouldn't want to do anything that would really jeopardize their having good security in their home loans. So the appraisal report. So you're going back to the beginning now that we know a little bit more about what an appraisal report is and why it is necessary to get one in most cases. So what happens if your buyer has their appraisal done and that appraisal comes back lower than that purchase price? Well, because the bank is using that appraised value to determine whether or not it is a good idea to lend all this money to the buyer, if the home comes back for less than the agreed purchase price, the buyer won't be able to get the loan that they were planning on getting for whatever percentage of that purchase price it was. The bank will only give them, whatever that purchase price is, percentage for the purchase price based on what loan program they're in. So if it's an FHA home, they can only lend 97%. If they're trying to get a conventional, 20% down, it's only that 80%. So the loan amount is going to have to adjust down. So because of that, buyers will frequently then say, the property hasn't appraised. We want the purchase price to be adjusted down to the appraised value. And in that instance, usually people do end up having to negotiate that if they want the deal to go forward. Now, if you don't want the deal to go forward by reducing the purchase price, then there's a few different options. The buyer would need to come up with more money for their down payment to make up that difference between the purchase price and the appraised value. Or in that instance, if you can't agree to that either, then, the buyer wouldn't be able to get the financing that they expected, and most likely they would be able to back out of the contract under the financing contingency. So in most instances, we do end up seeing that people agree to reduce the purchase price, though sometimes people do agree to have the buyer come up with a little bit more money for their down payment. The good news is, even when this happens, there is some room for negotiation, and if both parties are, willing and able, we can usually come to a resolution so that you can sell and the buyer can still buy your home, even if the appraisal comes up short. So I know that that was a lot of information and I kind of meandered a little bit there. If you have any other questions about it, do let me know. I'm here to help. If you found this video helpful, please do give it a like, share it with anyone else who might benefit from this knowledge, and please subscribe so you can continue seeing my videos. Thanks everyone, bye.